Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Hey, what's up, everybody? We have talked, obviously, a lot about Acosta and his role in the non-prosecution agreement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I have always contended that it went much higher up the chain, that was not a decision that Acosta made on his own, and that Mukasey and Mark Philippe, the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, that both of them had to be involved and that their office would have to sign off on a deal like this. And in the new court filings by Maxwell's lawyers, they're asserting the same thing. They're saying that top Department of Justice officials were the ones who okayed the deal. And we know that that's the case. We know that Mark Philippe is the one who signed off on it. So, as much as Maxwell's lawyers have been wrong in this case, in this instance, they most certainly are correct. This went all the way up to the most tippity top of the Department of Justice. This is not the sort of case, not the sort of decision that was going to be made by a state prosecutor like Acosta. Not in a million years. And what I'll do is I'm going to post a couple of links in the description box to go along with this article, where you can see for yourself in the actual court documents that Mark Philippe is the one who signed off on this, and that it wasn't just Acosta making this decision all on his own. And now, again, Acosta's a spineless coward, right? He deserved to be fired, he deserved to be ridiculed, and he deserved to be put on the spot about what went on here. But he's nothing more than a scapegoat, in my opinion. We haven't heard anything from Mark Philippe. We haven't heard anything from Mukasey. Why would they sign off on this deal? Why would they be okay with it? Why was Mark Philippe and Mukasey speaking with Lefkowitz? See, none of that stuff was even dug into by the legacy media, was it? Why, no political footballs to spike? No points to gain? I've said from the very beginning that Acosta was being scapegoated here. And it's all going to come out as this case moves forward. It wasn't Acosta who made this deal. It was Mukasey and Philippe and the top brass over at the Department of Justice. So let's jump into this article from the New York Post by the author Ben Furherd and see what exactly they're talking about. Headline: Top Department of Justice officials okayed Epstein non-prosecution deal. Maxwell lawyers. And it's a fact. We can confirm that. Like I said, I've read the court filings. They've been out there forever. So I'm going to post a link to those, and you can check them out yourself, where it says that Mark Philippe had to, he signed off on it. His signature is the one that's on the actual agreement. So what, he just, you want me to believe that the Deputy Attorney General is just willy-nilly signing everything and anything that comes across his desk like a rubber stamp? Because that's the assertion that is being made about all of these supposedly really powerful, smart people, that they just sign whatever, they don't vet who they're hanging out with, they don't look at where their money's coming from. They want us to believe that they're all just a bunch of absolute morons, I guess, and all of their fortunes just magically appeared and they just happened to luck into them. I guess that's what all of these so-called elites want us to believe. The non-prosecution agreement that spared multi-millionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein federal sex trafficking charges in the early 2000s was certified at the highest levels of the Justice Department. Lawyers for alleged cohort, co-conspirator, fellow child molester, general all-around scuzzbag and bipedal serpent, Ghislaine Maxwell, charged in court documents unsealed Thursday. So, again, those assertions are facts. Those statements are facts. This wasn't just an Acosta deal. This wasn't something Acosta could have approved on his own if he wanted to. If you've ever worked in a corporate structure, you understand how it works. If you have a project that you're working on as a department, that has to get kicked up, and then the head of the department takes a look at it and he decides what's what. It's no different here. Acosta approaches headquarters with the situation, and then the situation advises Acosta of what to do. You think the year worth of missing emails wouldn't paint the picture? You think the year's worth of missing emails wouldn't tie up some of these loose ends? But they want you to believe that that's a coincidence as well. That's just part of the absolute screw up by the federal government. In the filing, Maxwell's attorney sought to dismiss federal charges she now faces for allegedly procuring underage girls for Epstein and lying about it under oath by claiming she is subject to the same agreement he signed in 2007. So again, she's hinging a lot of her hopes on this non-prosecution agreement providing her with protection and coverage. Now, she is not named in this agreement, remember, but you have the Department of Justice, Mukasey, and Philippe, who decided that that's all good, no worries, we'll have it named and unnamed co-conspirators. It always cracked me up when people were acting like Acosta was the one who authored all of this, and he was the architect of all of this, and he was operating on his own, and that's not how it works. That is not how the bureaucracy of the United States government works, and it most certainly is not how the Department of Justice works. When they have a high-profile case like this, it is all hands on deck. Especially when you have the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General being contacted by these high-profile lawyers who were engaged in months-long back and forth to get this non-prosecution deal signed and delivered. Anyone that believes Acosta had that kind of power is just not paying attention to what's really going on here. The state attorney generals have a decent amount of power, right? No doubt about it. They can bring charges, they can subpoena, they have a lot of power. But when it comes to high-profile people like Jeffrey Epstein, Acosta is so out of his league that it's not even funny. And you see that. They had so little respect for him, meaning the defense team from Jeffrey Epstein's side, they had so little respect for him. They went directly over his head to Philippe and Mukasey. And he was just a puppet on a string. And the real puppeteers were obviously Epstein's lawyers and their buddy friends in the Department of Justice above Acosta. Now, if Acosta was worth his weight, he would have stood up to all of this and said, no way, this is egregious. We have to prosecute this dude federally, and we have to do it to the fullest extent of the law. But he didn't do that. He's just another noodle-backed, lifelong politician who went with the flow. Oh, this is what my bosses want? I'm not going to make any waves. I'm just going to let them do whatever they want, and we'll let this sick prick cop to 1 count of prostitution. In what alternate reality does that sound like a good idea? Because here, where we're at, in actual reality, it most certainly is not. The court filing includes a copy of the deal signed by then Florida federal prosecutor Alexander Acosta and details how the atypical agreement, which barred Epstein from facing federal prosecution if he copped to a 1-count state indictment, was agreed upon. So, again, this just goes to show you that Acosta was the middleman. He signed off on this deal because his bosses told him to. He wasn't sitting there saying, you know what, I'm going to do what I want here, and I'm just going to sign this deal, and that's going to be the end of it. No. What he is a coward, a through-and-through coward, no questions asked, no spine, no backbone, and no courage in him. He got run roughshod by headquarters. They ran right over him like a 4-foot man trying to tackle Saquon Barkley. Maxwell's attorneys claim in the filing that the agreement was heavily negotiated over approximately 8 months and was approved by senior levels of Maine justice in Washington, D.C. And yeah, there's no doubt about that. That's really what happened. And I knew it would eventually come out in this case as it moved forward and we got into the discovery phase, and the defense brought it to the forefront that this was using it as a part of their strategy, right? Well, even the top brass at the Department of Justice thought this was a good idea, trying to use that to bolster their argument, when in reality, that goes against any sane person's argument, considering we all know how corrupt these sons of bitches are. Sure, let's trust George Bush's Department of Justice to do the right thing. That never led us to disaster. It adds that the agreement, approved by the Office of the Deputy Attorney General before it was signed, allowing Epstein to avoid federal prosecution in Florida for trafficking underage girls to sexually abuse. Now, they don't even say his name in the article, and I don't know why, but I'll say his name once again for you. Mark Philippe was the Deputy Attorney General under Michael Mukasey who signed off on this. It was his office who signed off on it. His office that directed Acosta to make this deal. His office that put the stamp on it. Is there no accountability for people in management, for people in the upper levels? Is it only the frontline so-called dispensable people that are held accountable? Because that's certainly what it looks like. Got the 2 guards. They're held accountable. Acosta takes all the blame like he's the fall guy, whereas there's plenty of blame to be spread around. And after Acosta was taken out, the focus should have been put right on Philippe and Mukasey, and it should have went all the way to the top and not just stopped at Acosta the way it did to score a couple of political points. Lawyers for Epstein, who killed himself, allegedly, in a lower Manhattan jail cell in 2019, have said previously that the deal was certified at the highest levels of the Justice Department. And it was. Again, you can look at these documents yourself. They're all out there. You can look at all of it. Mark Philippe, his signature is the one on the documents. His office is the one that gave the okay. And there's no spinning that. That's just the reality of the situation. In the filing, Maxwell's attorney said the agreement should apply to her right now and spare her from the indictment she's currently facing in the Southern District of New York. And again, remember, that's why she's bringing this up. She's bringing it up because she believes it bolsters her case, that the top brass at the Department of Justice signed off on this. These are the top guys in the world. Why would they sign off on it if she did anything wrong? And meanwhile, even in death, Jeffrey Epstein's reputation is being refurbished by the behavior of the Department of Justice. What a world we live in. The parties to the NPA clearly intended to confer a benefit on any and all of Epstein's potential co-conspirators in explicitly giving them immunity, the filing states. Under the well-established principles of general contract law, and particularly under the law relating to non-prosecution agreements, any and all of Epstein's potential co-conspirators are third-party beneficiaries of the NPA, it adds. And there's really no disputing that, unfortunately. That is what they signed off on. That is what the Attorney General and his deputy gave the okay to. That's what they put their stamp of approval on. And there's no getting around that. And we're not going to let that bone go here on the podcast. We're going to keep driving that home. And I wonder if the legacy media, with all of their fancy resources, are ever going to track down Mukasey and ask him, or ask Mark Philippe what's going on, get him to go on record and talk about this. Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to allegedly procuring girls for Epstein to abuse and to lying about it under oath. She's being held in a federal jail in Brooklyn pending trial, exactly where she belongs, in a jail cell awaiting trial. Well, folks, I've been talking about this for a long time now, and I'm glad to see that it's starting to get a little bit of tread. I'm glad to see that it's out there in the papers a little bit, and I hope more people get hip to the fact that while Acosta certainly was part of the problem, he wasn't the problem in itself. It went all the way up to the very top of the Department of Justice. And still, Mukasey and Philippe have not answered any questions about how or why they would sign off on such a ridiculous non-prosecution agreement that afforded such protections to known and unknown entities. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I will be back later on, and we will pick up where we left off.